Razorback Nation, this is your new head football coach, Ryan Silverfield. Can't wait to get to Fayetteville and get started. We're going to bring a lot of success to the Hogs. It's so well deserved. Can't wait to see you. Go Hogs.
Well, there you have it, straight from the man himself. There is a new head Razorback football coach. It is Ryan Silverfield coming over from Memphis. The months-long search has officially come to an end. So let's run through how we got here. It has been a wild day all across the SEC and college football, and the dominoes started to really fall, of course, with the craziness around Lane Kiffin. He's leaving Ole Miss to go to LSU. Now, Florida had been in the Kiffin sweepstakes for a little bit. They pivoted to John Summerall. Summerall had reportedly been the favorite for Auburn, with Summerall to Florida. Alex Golish from South Florida goes to Auburn. And as we've been reporting over the last week, Golish had an offer on the table from Arkansas, but he picks Auburn over the Razorbacks. So Arkansas pivots to another man who had been reported as a finalist for the last couple weeks, Memphis head coach Ryan Silverfield. So let's take a look at Silverfield by the numbers. He has spent the last 6 seasons as the Memphis head coach, taking over when Mike Norvell, former UCA quarterback, left Memphis and went to Florida State. Silverfield had been the offensive line coach at Memphis underneath Norvell, and he continued the winning ways at Memphis. 50-25, his overall record in 6 seasons as Memphis's head coach. 29-9 in the last 3 years. That's good for a top 10 win percentage in the country over the last 3 seasons. That's the good. You dive into those numbers a little bit, you'll find some things you don't necessarily love. At no point in those 6 years has Memphis made an AAC or American Conference title game, despite always having those title aspirations. And 50-25 looks great, but 20 of those 25 losses coming to teams over 500. Obviously, every head coach in the country is going to have a worse record against winning teams, but that 12-20, not exactly something you want to see. And of course, at Arkansas, that level of competition is only going to step up in a big way. Silverfield now joins the toughest conference in the land, the SEC. And Arkansas fans, all kinds of, let's say, fired up in different directions over the hire. Our own Nick Luttrell was in Fayetteville earlier, and he caught up with some Razorback fans for their reaction.
Yeah, Tyler, when we first started to get some rumblings, some sources that Ryan Silverfield will be the next head coach for the Razorbacks this morning, I think a lot of Razorback fans, were probably like me and you, were just shocked. You know, we had come to understand that maybe there's a possibility Alex Golish would be this guy, would be the next head coach for the Razorbacks. We got excited about that. For whatever reason, that fell through. Silverfield is now the guy, and he brings with him a lot of experience and a lot of pros. But I think first reaction for Hog fans were shocked and then a little upset. They're organized a little peaceful protest outside the Jones Center, just 20 or 25 people. But when I had the chance to talk to some of those fans, it was less about, hey, we're hiring Ryan Silverfield, and more about, hey, it might be time for Hunter Yurachek to go.
It's disappointing that we can't get a candidate that we want. I'm pretty frustrated with Yurachek.
The insanely long coaching search whenever we had great options available, just to wake up this morning to see that we're hiring somebody who isn't going to meet the status quo for Arkansas.
And last year we said it was because of Sam Pittman, but we just whiffed on 6 coaches. It's not because of Sam. Sam, if you're listening, I miss you. I'm sorry. I wish we still had you as our head football coach.
Yeah, and maybe that right there is the prime example of the grass isn't always greener. No longer is Sam Pittman the head coach. Bob Petrino won't be the head coach. He's unlikely to stick around. They've got Ryan Silverfield. That's the cards that they have been dealt. And it seems like what was already an uphill challenge has now become a little bit steeper going forward. When you have a guy like Ryan Silverfield coming in versus some of these other bigger candidates that would have gotten a fan base a lot more excited than a guy like Ryan Silverfield, because right now the fan base does not seem too pleased with Ryan Silverfield, but too pleased with Hunter Yurachek and too pleased with this program as a whole.
Now, of course, there's an easy way to win those fans over. Start winning football games. I caught up with former Razorback offensive lineman Bray Cook, who also coached as a graduate assistant at Memphis when Silverfield was the offensive line coach. And for a man who's been around both the Razorback program and Silverfield a lot, Cook has a lot more optimistic outlook on the hire.
I was actually slept in today, and I woke up to the notification on my phone that he'd been hired. It was the first thing I saw when I picked up my phone, and pretty unbelievable. I think that social media is taken a little differently, but for me, I've had a chance to get to know Ryan pretty closely over the last several years, and seen his program up close. And when this job was in that when we fired Sam, the first name that came to my mind was, man, Ryan will do a great job here. And I think when we talked last, he was the coach I had in the front of my head, is, man, he would be a good fit for several reasons. But the biggest one to me, being in the college landscape today, the biggest component to winning is, whether you like it or not, is the money. And do you have the NIL? Do you have the boosters behind you to pay for the players, to get them on campus, to build a team of SEC caliber athletes? And what Ryan is able to do, and he did this in Memphis, where his off the field responsibility was fundraising, was boosters, and he was able to build relationships that were meaningful, and meaningful enough to finance basically a brand new Liberty Bowl and a brand new football complete complex for their football team, which had never been done in Memphis. And for him to do that there, I thought, man, if he can do that at Arkansas with the NIL program, we have a shot.
Just from your time in Memphis, obviously working directly with him, I mean, you started to touch on kind of the off the field stuff there, but on the field, just what kind of coach is Arkansas getting here?
Yeah, to me, it's the attention to detail. You look at the coaching styles, and you've got on one side the personality coach who's going to get you to run through a brick wall. And the other side, you got your Nick Saban, who is, this is how we're going to do things. I'm going to hold you accountable. And if you can't do that, you're not going to cut it. Ryan has a lot of both of those things. He's going to build super meaningful relationships with his players, with his staff, with high school recruits and coaches, and probably most importantly, boosters. But he's going to hold your football team accountable, from the janitors to the starting quarterback, to his staff, to everybody's going to be held to a very high standard. And he's not afraid to call you out on that. And that's going to be one of the things that I think you have to be successful in the SEC.
For Arkansas fans, if you could, I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase this, I guess, put him in Arkansas terms, like what pieces of different Arkansas coaches do you potentially see in Ryan?
That's a great question. I feel like I have to answer it carefully. People get fired up. I'm going to say, well, when I think about that question, I say, I look at Pittman, and I look at Petrino, and he definitely leans more towards Petrino, but you're going to see, like I said, you're really going to see both. You're going to see that intense accountability that you have to have, but you're also going to feel the relationship he's going to build with you and with everyone. And so you're going to see both of those things. So to say he's taken aspects of both those personalities, no, I probably wouldn't say that. But that's what you're going to get. You're going to get the intensity, but you're going to feel a relationship.
Just from your perspective, what are the next steps for him to be successful here? I mean, it sounds like he's already, started reaching out at least to the in-state guys. Obviously, he's got to meet with the current players, happening sometime this afternoon. Just where does he start this thing to get things back on track?
Yeah, I think that he, going into it, probably had a list of the roster and said, these are the kids who can buy into a winning culture, and these are the kids that we probably need to look at cleaning house a little bit. And I'm not speaking for him. I don't know exactly, but I would imagine that he's done that research and kind of knows how that's going to go. And I imagine he's meeting with them probably right now about the expectations that are going to be set, but also the support that he's going to bring to these guys. And After that, yeah, it's reaching out to recruits, and I know for a fact he had a list of Arkansas recruits and kids who would be a great fit here at Arkansas. And I think that he's probably reaching out to them. And I would say the next one is the money, but I think he's already talked to the money. I think the fact that he's been hired, and I know for a fact that he's been hired, the money is in support, which is again crucial to being successful in the SEC.
That's right in 2025, 2026. Yeah, that all seems to be where it all starts and ends is the money. Yeah, and you kind of alluded to it. Obviously, social media is not real life, and maybe doubly so in Razorback land. A lot of
Yeah.
emotions running real hot right now. I mean, respect to outside of, I mean, we got a long way to go till next football season, so we'll see. Wins will bring anyone around, but to get the fan base on board and back in, what do you think is the most important steps to be taken here?
I think, and I've done a couple interviews, and I've said the same thing. Like, don't take my word for it. Like, getting a catchphrase or a graphic with some cool picture, like none of that matters. What matters is building a winning football program. And so for Ryan, it's come out here and do your job and do it at a high level, and he's going to do that. And I think for the fan base, I'm not asking you to jump all in, but you're going to realize that, okay, he does do things a little differently. And okay, there is a different attention to detail in how we run practice, how he recruits, how he does everything. But also, you're going to see that part of him. The fans are going to like him when it comes down to it. But again, I don't want to say that because I have a bias. I want you to go out there and make your own decision. And I think that for our fans that do that come in with an open mind and give him just a chance, they're going to realize that he is different.
And I guess beyond everything as a coach, I mean, tell me about Ryan the guy. What kind of man is Arkansas getting?
Yeah. So I believe when Norvell called me to be their GA, he offered me a job on like a Thursday morning. I talked to Ryan on Thursday afternoon, quit my job that day, packed up my stuff, and drove to Memphis overnight, and was there for the 6 a.m. staff meeting the next day. And Ryan said, "Well, hey, before come live with me, and we'll figure this out." So I lived with him for a couple months, and that's just who he was. Like, I mean, here's a kid who drove over state to work for him. Who I had known him a little bit. I had worked some camps with him as a GA. They host a big Memphis recruiting camp. I was able to go do that for a couple seasons, so I knew him. And but him to open up his house for me to come in there, I'm getting paid. I think it was like $600 a month there at Memphis as a GA. So he understands the grind and was able to help me out in a very unique time that really meant a lot to me. And that's just kind of the guy who he is. I mean, he's not going to be fake. He's not going to give you that, like I said, that catchphrase or that graphic. He's going to talk to you and treat you straight and tell you how it is. And what I like about that is you mentioned the fans are fired up. Fired up is a good way to put it, maybe a light way to put it. But that's who Arkansas is. Arkansas is not great when we're not fired up. We're good when we are fired up, when we have that chip on our shoulder. And so, that's kind of the personality that Arkansas is. And that's the personality that his Memphis teams played with, was they played with a chip on their shoulder. And for Arkansas to be successful, yeah, we got to be fired up. So have that open mind, keep that intensity, and hopefully you'll see some changes in the program that'll direct that intensity elsewhere and towards our own program.
So thank you to Bray for sitting down to talk with me. And yeah, fired up, definitely maybe the light way to put it. And they don't come more fired up than Locked On Razorbacks podcast host John Neighbors. Going to go back out to Fayetteville, where Nick was able to catch up with John.
All right, we are now joined by Locked On Razorbacks podcast host John Neighbors. John, as always, thanks for joining me to talk about things with Arkansas football, with Arkansas sports. It felt like about 2 months ago we were standing right around in this area talking about Sam Pittman and him not being the head coach and talking about that and what does that mean going forward. Who would they get? Now we know who they have. It's Mr. Silverfield. So let's talk about it. Your first reaction to hearing that Ryan Silverfield will be the next head coach for the Razorbacks.
Well, it's funny because about a month or so ago, I started getting some, my sauces telling me all about Ryan Silverfield. And I didn't report it or anything like that because it's, how this chaos of the coaching search.
Yeah.
But I did some research into it, and I was like, okay, maybe, see his record, see what he's doing and everything. But then kind of things took off, and you heard about Alex Golish, you heard about Eric Morris. And I think that when it came to all of the hires that you could have made, Silverfield was pretty down on the list compared to those other schools or those other coaches. So my initial reaction was like, oh no, it felt like Arkansas settled. It felt like almost like the Sam Pittman hire where you just ended up with what's left over. I am rooting for Silverfield. I really am, so don't misconstrue it. But it's definitely a pretty underwhelming, energetic hire that I think Razorback fans are really hoping for.
And why do you feel like it is so underwhelming?
Well, part of it is because of the reports that came out this past week about Alex Golish. I mean, people see that and people run with it and they think it's true. And I don't blame fans for feeling that way. I mean, there was some legitimacy to it at least. And so you get your hopes up for somebody, and then when it's not that, you kind of get a little bit disappointed. But I think it's that, and I also think, again, when Razorback fans were looking at the grand scheme of things and they see about all these other jobs that are opened up and who they're fighting against and trying to be competitive in the SEC, on top of going 2-10 this year, you were hoping to get somebody that can really, you wanted somebody that everybody else wanted. And Silverfield, as much as I may like the guy, he wasn't in the mix for the Auburn job or the Florida job or the LSU job or Virginia Tech or any of these things. It's really just Arkansas. But Golish, you were competing against some big schools. You were competing for Eric Morris. This just kind of feels like in recruiting where you get that 3-star recruit and you're like, well, who offered him? And you see none of the other SEC schools that you're going to be competing against offered him. And you're like, is it really that big of a player? Yeah. It's kind of the same thing. It's just you ended up with a guy that didn't seem like a lot of people were fighting over. And again, really hoping it works out. But that's maybe one of the biggest reasons why Razorback fans just aren't inspired right now.
Do you have any insight or any thought on the reason why they weren't able to get Alex Golish?
Well, that's the ultimate question because it seems like it's always about money, right? It's always about money no matter what it is. And we don't really know, at least at this point in time, the contract details in and out of what Silverfield's getting. Yeah. But we did get at least some details of what Golish has gotten at Auburn and Sumrall, and it seems fairly competitive. It doesn't seem like it's this overwhelming amount you shouldn't be able to get to if you're an SEC school. Mm-hmm. So to me, it can't just necessarily be money. It has to go back to the funding of the program. What was it about Arkansas and what Golish saw with Arkansas and Auburn? What drew him to Auburn more so than Arkansas? Yeah. You can't help but feel like it's got to be the support system and the setup, because that was a big thing. We and you have talked about it. Yeah. Hey, Sam Pittman wasn't set up for success. He wasn't set up to win a championship. Maybe, just maybe, some coaches are a little bit apprehensive of going to a program when the athletic director says those things, maybe because there's a lot of truth to it.
Yeah. Okay. We've talked some of the negatives. Let's lean on the positive to offer some optimism, because it is there. Because if you take away all this Golish stuff, you take away maybe some questionable things that people don't like about Hunter Yurachek, Silverfield isn't the worst coach in the world, the worst coach that they could have gotten. Actually, I'll ask you this first, and then we'll talk about Silverfield. Is this better than keeping on Bobby Petrino for another year?
It at least sparks a debate. I mean, it really does. And it's just because you like to know what's familiar. And there's some familiarity with Bobby. People feel like, hey, if the funding is truly there for Silverfield, then maybe it was truly there for Bobby. And Bobby's a more proven head coach in some capacities. But as we know, you can't go 0-7. So, I mean, it's up for debate there. But I'm not going to just feel one way or the other strongly about it. I could see arguments for both sides.
Yeah, and then looking at Silverfield's resume, I mean, this season Memphis didn't end up putting together a tremendous season. At one point, they were looking like a team that could make the college football playoff. Then they lost their last 3 games of the regular season to finish 8-4. The 2 seasons before that, double-digit winning team, a good program that he helped continue to be good. It wasn't like USF with Golish and that he took from being really bad to really good. It was a program in which it was really good, and he maintained that success until he lost these last few games. So in my opinion, and I'll hear yours, but you take out those last 3 games, it's maybe not as bad of a hire as people maybe think it is right now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you want to look at some positives, he's never had a losing record at Memphis. I mean, he's still got to win games, and he's at least done that. He had an 11-win and a 10-win season just 2 of the last 3 years, 8-win season this year. Yeah. He also was able to, this past season, beat Alex Golish and beat Eric Morris, 2 coaches that went head-to-head. And also, they beat Arkansas.
This is true.
They beat you. So there are some positives there. You can see where some of that's coming from. Yeah. It's just a matter of but not having the SEC experiences. I know we're talking about positives. Right. That's something that people are a little bit apprehensive of. But the thing is that if you're going to go with a coach like this, and if you're trying to look for the positives, the guy was at Memphis for a while, and he never had a losing season. He always won games, and he beat some good teams, and he beat you as an SEC team, which is ironic. It led to the firing of Sam Pittman, and here we are. But the guy has at least that acumen. It's just a matter of can it translate to the SEC.
Yeah, so Silverfield will be officially announced as the head coach on Thursday. It sounds like Wednesday night when Arkansas and Louisville play in a big-time basketball game at Bud Walton, he could be introduced as possibly what we're hearing. How do you think fans will react to, here's Ryan Silverfield, the new head coach of Arkansas football, when he's there in front of everybody instead of just these keyboard warriors, with all due respect? How do you think fans will actually react when they hear him, or fans are invited to this gathering that is on Thursday night when he's introduced as head coach?
I think fans overwhelmingly will cheer for him, because even if you're someone who's very upset, if you're a Razorback fan that's mad about this, I don't blame you. I don't think you should be, ridiculed for that. But just direct your frustrations to the right area. Ryan Silverfield, you don't need to boo him. You don't need to have any issues with him. I mean, like I said, me or you could have applied for the job, and if we got the job and people were mad, are they mad at us or mad at the ones that gave us the job? So if you are critical, be critical of the right areas, be critical of the right people. But Ryan Silverfield, I think, will get a good, warm reception, because, as much as people are mad, people aren't inhumane in front of his family where they're just going to boo him off the court unless he says something terrible on a tweet or something about that, like about Arkansas or anything like that. So I think the fan reaction in person, if it happens at Bud Walton Arena for that game, will be a good one. But it's just a matter of, from then on out, how will it continue to translate?
Yeah, you got to win games. That's a bit.
Unfortunately, we got to wait a while for that to happen. But hey, transfer portal though will show a lot about the funding of this team and of this program. Because if they're going out and they're getting some big players, some big names out of the portal, I think that's going to tell us a lot about where the financial situation is for Razorback football.
Yeah, and that's kind of the last question I was going to ask you that I'm sure he'll get asked on Thursday is, what's the first kind of big thing you want to see him do? You want to see him get some in-state recruits, because that's something apparently he might be good at doing. Do you want to see him retain a KJ Jackson or Braylon Russell, or throw those all away? What's kind of that first thing you want to see that can give you some confidence that, okay, he can be good at this?
Well, it's ironic, too, because he's kind of known for being an offensive line coach, which he just went through that. Yeah. But, it's about a staff first. Who's going to be his offense coordinator? Who's going to be his defense coordinator? What does that look like? And then it goes about to where you mentioned the quarterback situation. If it's KJ Jackson, great. But if it's somebody else, that's great too. Go get the ones you want. Go get the quarterback that you want, that you can win with. And I think that's got to be the main move of looking at the entire roster currently for the Razorbacks and seeing who do you want to stay, who do you not care if they leave, who do you want to have conversations with. Recruit the ones you want, and then just hit the portal hot and heavy, because that's what's about to happen. And it's going to be chaotic with signing day and all that stuff. We know that there's some in-state players that need to be talked to, which I know that's going to be interesting to see their reactions. There's a lot going on here, but the first order of business is you got to win the press conference, which is so cliche, but it's true. And then you have to just hit the ground running. I don't want to see him on Twitter. I don't want to see anything about him. I want him to be zero dark 30, working in the lab, putting this team together, putting a staff together, putting a roster together, because you don't have much time to waste.
Yeah, it seems like today there's a big conversation on Hunter Yurachek and the future of Arkansas's football program. Hopefully, by the time we get to Thursday, there's a little bit more positivity for this Arkansas football program, at least in the near future. John, thanks so much, as always, for joining me and talking some Arkansas football.
All right, well, you heard John and Nick allude to it there. Here is what's next, at least in the immediate future. The early signing period for high school recruits is going to start Wednesday. So Silverfield reportedly already working the phones, trying to build his first class at Arkansas. He will be introduced at a press conference Thursday at 1 p.m. alongside Arkansas Athletics Director Hunter Yurachek. So I'm sure plenty of questions for both of those men. And then following that on Thursday, there will be a public celebration inside the Walker Indoor Pavilion at 5 p.m. where Silverfield will be introduced to Razorback fans. And we are starting to get reports of contract details. It looks like 5 years, $33.5 million, which averages out to about $6.7 million a year for Ryan Silverfield. No, I'm not joking. That's the actual number. It is a slight bump over what Sam Pittman was getting and about 2.5 times what Silverfield was making at Memphis. All right, that is going to do it for us for now on THV 11 Plus. Of course, we will be at that press conference Thursday. We will, between now and then, get you ready with everything you need to know about the new Razorback head football coach, Ryan Silverfield.